Alright, peace. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, give honor and praise to the God of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Give a double honors to 7130 South Chicago that taught me this truth. And give a double honors to all the brothers and sisters that the Creator has awoken in these last days. With that being said, peace and shalom. Alright, brothers and sisters, I want to talk about a discussion that was talked about between Paul Pierce, Joy, I think Joy Taylor, that's her name is, and Keshawn Johnson. And they was talking about the recent situation or altercation that was going on between Tyreek Hills and a couple of police officers. Tyreek was grabbed out of the car and he was forcibly put to the ground and detained because he was being very disrespectful towards the officers and things of this nature when he was being pulled over for speeding. So the officer, I think they was in motorcycles or whatever, but it was all body cam, right? So they see Tyreek Hill speeding and they pursued him. So upon pursuing, they asked him while they was on a bike, I believe, they was saying, do you know that you was speeding? And I think he acknowledged that, he was speeding, but he was on his way to the game. He played for the Miami Dolphins. So I think when they got off the bike, he had rolled his window up. So his window, he has tinted windows. He had a real nice car, right? So they tapping on the window, and he's aggressive. He's verbally aggressive, saying, don't touch his window, and blah, 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 this and that. And the next thing you know, he handed them, I think, his license and registration, but he was still being very dismissive or verbally aggressive towards the police officers that pulled him over. And one thing led to another. They opened the car and they grabbed him out of the car and they forcibly pinned him to the floor. And later on, he's detained for, I guess, not so much resisting arrest, but, the way that he was talking to the police, right? So it made the news headwaves and stuff, and a lot of people have different reactions towards this. And one of the things that I want to respond to is Paul Pierce, Keshawn Johnson, and Joy Taylor's response to the altercation between him and the police officers. And Paul Pierce was going back to his childhood. I guess maybe he was a teenager or whatever. And he was making a statement that, he grew up in California or Los Angeles, and he was saying that all his life he has always had a fear of the police, right? And which is understandable because you have a lot of cops that's on the police force. They do use their power and authority for wrong reasons. A lot of them are bullies, right? And a lot of them do a lot of things that really disrespect the shield. Well, I wouldn't even say disrespect the shield. They do a lot of things that they know that they can get away with, They are heavily connected. A lot of these guys are Masons and all this type of stuff. We don't go into all that, but they're connected. They have a strong union that's behind them and stuff. So, but now because they have been doing a lot of wrong things back in the 80s, the 90s. We go back to the 1800s, you know what I'm saying? But now they have to wear a body camera because of a lot of the things that they have been doing. So I will agree that the police, in actuality, to a certain extent, back in the day, they not a certain extent, but back in the day, they was some people to be feared. It's because they can do things, and the next thing you know, they can get away with it, right? So Paul Pierce and Keshawn Johnson, they was just expressing them being disgruntled with the fact that they grabbed Tyreek Hill out of the car and played him like they played him. And I remember Keshawn Johnson made the statement. He said, "Man, if he want to talk mess to the police, he should be able to do that. If if it's just a verbal confrontation." And see, this is where I would say Joy Taylor, Paul Pierce, especially Keshawn Johnson, are really dangerous towards young black women. And why do you say that? It's because, for one, let's go back to square one. Every country has rules. You may not abide by them, you may not like them, right? But Marcellus Wiley said something that was very interesting, and this is myself and a lot of us don't do. Instead of us paying these lawyers to do certain things for us, to represent us and things of this nature, the one thing that we don't do is we don't study the law. We start studying the law when we go to prison because we're trying to get out of prison. But we don't make it, just like people study the Bible. I study the Bible too. But we don't make it our business to study the laws of the land. Most of us sit back and talk about my constitutional rights being violated. But if you ask, I bet you it's about 95 or 99% people in this country do not know the Constitution verbatim. And I'm going to be honest, I'm one of the ones. They tell you this in court. Ignorance to the law is no excuse. So, and also, just because you know the law, that don't mean that you should be an a-hole when you come across law enforcement. And this is what he was doing. He's a young man, probably in his 20s. He's one of the top wide receivers on the Miami Dolphins, right? And he's speeding, trying to rush to the game. This is his job. This is his profession. And a lot of times we have to take accountability. If you work a job, you should get to your job maybe between an hour early. He get paid millions of dollars to perform on the field. While you speeding, he could have hit somebody, or somebody could have ran into him. There's a lot of factors to be taken in when we looking at this situation. If there's a law that says that you can't speed, then if you're going to speed, why are you speeding early in the afternoon during the day? There's police around, right? So he's speeding. He's in the wrong. They go to the car and go through the same procedures of everybody that's get caught speeding. So his first thing was to be aggressive towards the police, even though he's in the wrong. That's not showing accountability for what you're doing. All of this stuff could have been avoided if when he got caught speeding, he could have just told the officers that I'm sorry, I was trying to get to the game. If you want to give me a ticket, I can take a ticket. You know, even a verbal tongue lashing, because there's a lot of people that have killed people or got themselves killed in the line of speeding their car. And the reason why I'm saying that Joey, Keshawn, and Paul Pierce, and a lot of us that only look towards racism is dangerous is because we're not really preparing ourselves in the country. See, this is what's wrong with us. We think that America is our country, and it's not. The Bible says, Micah 2:10, this is not your rest. See? And also it says that you got to agree with your adversary. Keshawn Johnson talking about how he gonna get if that was me, I'd get them fired. Fine. But you still didn't take accountability for what you did. See? If the police is killing black men at an alarming rate, why would you say something or do something to these people that is going to put them in a position to take your head off? That's not a person of wisdom. Let's say hypothetically that we're being shot at a 99% rate. Why would you sit up here and talk crazy to the police that you know that are serial killers? Because that's really what a lot of these guys are. They're serial killers. Why would you do that? To be honest with you, he disrespected every black person that has got treated unjustly by the police department. It's because he had an opportunity to just de-escalate the situation, and he didn't do it. And then you have a lot of these media personnel, they always talking about, the black man is this, that, and the third, and they multi-millionaires. This is baffling to me. How they go through the struggle and all this time. All of this stuff is nothing but a bunch of jargon that we talking about. These same people that want to talk, they want to use the black card when it's sufficient to what they doing. These same people don't do nothing for the community. And to be honest with you, brothers and sisters, the masses of black people that's in the neighborhood, we do nothing for the community just as well. If we want better policing, better situations that's going on in the community, we are the ones that have to put the footwork in, and we have to make the changes that's necessary. So we don't have these problems. But we need to start raising our kids. If the police department is the enemy, right? You got to train your kids from birth to conduct themselves in a certain type of manner. And even if the police department is not the enemy, you still have to train your kids that way. It's because when your kids go outside, they are a representation of you. So him being snatched out of the car, I did a video on this prior, but they hit me with a copyright. This is ridiculous because a lot of people use other people's stuff to make certain points. As soon as I do it, I get a copyright thing. But that's neither here nor there. But I kind of lost my train of thought. But this is what I'm saying. I got my thought back. Okay. Them snatching him out of the car, to me, was a great thing for him. Is because, why do you say that? It's because it's going to teach him that it should. Just because you're rich don't mean that you ain't no nigga. In the eyes of a lot of these people out here, we got to understand that a lot of these folks don't even want to pay you $1 million to play professional sports. A lot of people don't even want to pay us in the regular working field. So this should be a learning situation for him. Because for one, he had no business speeding like that. And two, when you're being approached by somebody like this, you should conduct yourself in a civilized manner. What we saw with him was an individual that had a savage behavior. Right? We didn't see a person that was grateful for all the hard work that he put in from whatever age he started playing sports up until now. We didn't see that person. We saw a person that say, look, I got money, I got prestige. Who the F is these cops to even question me about it? That's what we saw that day. And see, another thing too, black lawyers and white lawyers, anybody that's in the field, we should stop defending these people. It's because if you do something that you know is not right, and then you gonna shrug your shoulders like that, you have to be made an example out of. And I just think that Keshawn Johnson, Paul Pierce, they haven't learned nothing either, because when Keshawn was in the NFL, he was a promising wide receiver. He got into trouble just as well. And we always make an excuse. We always want to use the black card. See? So, I didn't want to be too long with this video. I know it got flagged before. I just wanted to discuss this is because starting today, we have to pay attention to our surroundings on what we're doing out here and make better choices so that we can get home to our families, and even if we may not have families, just make it home safe. So with that being said, peace, shalom.